Hello, my name is Nathan Martin. I am the CEO of SageCore Technologies. Today I'm going to walk you through how to install Istio, which is a service mesh for your microservices, and set that up on Google Cloud Platform using GKE, and then configure the ingress gateway that ships with Istio to be changed to a nodeport and enable the Google load balancer to act as the entry point for your traffic. So let's begin here. I'm going to create my new project. We'll wait for that new project to spin up. There we go. Okay. So now we can go to our Kubernetes engine. We're going to create a new cluster. Let's wait for the engine API to be enabled. Alright, once your API has been enabled, let's create our cluster. I'm going to use US Central 1A. Release channel with 1.15 Kubernetes. Machine type has to be N1 standard 2 for the sake of memory. Running Istio. Security, all this looks good. Monitoring. Where's my VPC is on, HTTP load balancing is on. Perfect. So now we can create our cluster. Alright, once your cluster has been spun up, it should look something like this. What we're going to do here is actually click to connect to our newly created cluster. So we're going to run this. Now, a couple of things that I always like to check is to make sure that it says that your project ID is matching what you have here, just in case you were working on something else and you're actually connected to another cluster within your Cloud Shell. And then the other thing is to make sure that your namespace is in the default, and it usually is if you're starting this out. Otherwise, you can use this command to do that. So we've created our cluster, we've connected to it. Now it's time to actually download and set up Istio. I've got a link to it here in the docs. You can follow that more. Essentially, what it boils down to, these three commands inside of your Cloud Shell. So this is going to download the Istio code base. We're going to actually cd into that folder, and we're going to create the path for your istio.ctl command line. Now we can verify the ability to actually install Istio. This is very good for the sake of ensuring all of these checks are made and that you're not actually connected to a cluster in another project that already has Istio installed. I've done that before, and it is not fun when you think you're doing one thing on one cluster and it's on another. So we can see that our pre-check has passed. Now we can actually install Istio. I highly recommend looking at all the other configuration profiles. For this video, we're going to use the demo profile. So we're going to apply the demo manifest, and this will start installing Istio into our cluster. Give it probably a good couple moments and or a couple of minutes, and this should be done. Alright, once your installation is complete, your command line should look something like this. We're going to go in and make sure we've got all of our workloads in the green. So let's give these things a little bit to set up. Alright, so everything is green in our workloads. Services where we have our load balancer IP. Now what we need to do is actually deploy our application. First, we have to actually tell Istio to inject the sidecars that will get the traffic before the application in order for Istio to do its job. So we're going to run this command in order to label the default namespace as being Istio injection enabled. Now we can actually deploy our bookinfo application that ships with Istio. Oops. Sometimes Google will throw some weird errors here. Okay, so those are deployed. We should start to see some workloads pop in here for our application. So we've got our product page, ratings, all this stuff is starting to spin up. Give that a couple of moments, and while that's spinning up, we can actually deploy our gateway, which essentially just defines the ability to get to these services. So let's define that or deploy that, and let's double check our so these are not quite spun up yet. Alright, now we're good. So now that this is set up, this would be essentially where the normal Istio would end. So what I'm going to actually do is go to my IP, go to my product page, and see that our bookinfo application works, and go through all the steps of refreshing and seeing the different ratings, versions, and stuff like that. And that's all great. However, the problem is in the real life, or in the real world, we actually have to point a domain to this, and then usually we want to actually have a viable way of managing SSLs. Here at SageCore, we didn't want to use Cert Manager for this. The load balancer interface that we're used to through Google and that our team is used to using, we want to make this transition as seamless as possible. So it made sense to utilize that, especially when we're talking about DDoS attacks, Cloud Armor in front of the load balancer and whatnot. Google has some amazing products in regard to this. So what I'm going to actually do is change the Istio Ingress Gateway into a node port instead of being our load balancer. That's going to take our application offline for a bit, and then we will install the Kubernetes Ingress object and the load balancer that comes with it on the Google side. So now what we're going to do is deploy a health service that will enable the load balancer health check to resolve to the correct place. So I will release this documentation as part of this video. So I've created my health service. Now we're going to actually create our patch file for the Istio Ingress Gateway. And now let's apply the patch. Alright, so what this should do now is actually change this Ingress Gateway. Now we can see it's a node port. So your application will not be accessible via this IP anymore. Now, what we want to do is actually create our Kubernetes Ingress object. Perfect. So now this is going to say creating ingress, and we want to wait until an IP is assigned. Okay, now that we have an IP assigned to our newly created ingress, we're going to actually copy this IP, and I'm going to point a domain that I own to this IP address. Okay, I've pointed my domain to this IP address, and now we want to actually configure our health check. So we want to find our target point for Istio Ingress Gateway. So we're going to actually click on this service, scroll down, and you'll see that the status port is 31974 in this case. Now these do change, so you'll have to actually check this on your side. Now what we'll do is go back to our services. We're going to find our primary. We're going to go to our backend. We'll find the health check here. We're going to edit this. So our port is going to be now that port we just copied. And we're going to point it to the /health/ready. Okay, I'm going to actually change this for the sake of this video. You don't have to do it, but this will make your time to live a little bit faster. So we're going to actually save this health check. Okay, the health check is deployed, and now we need to wait for that health check to actually resolve. So what that means is your ingress is going to stay creating ingress. If we click in here, you'll notice the backend services are unhealthy. So when that health check passes, we should be good. So while this is all happening, we're actually going to want to look at this IP. We'll go into our VPC network, external IP addresses, and we want to make sure we reserve this IP as static. That way we can assign SSLs to it via load balancer. So what we'll do is call this Istio collab, or static. And now that is reserved, and my domain DNS has been working on resolving to this IP this whole time. So when the time comes to actually get the SSL, it should work fairly quickly. So let's go back into our services and check on our backend here. So we're still not showing that we're healthy. So we're going to have to give this a little bit of time. Let's go back. So one of the things that I like to always do is open this up. You're going to notice your error, right, on your primary IP. And when you reload this every so often, I wouldn't go crazy. You know, it's going to take a little time. But, you know, every 5 minutes or so, just check it. And when it goes blank, that's when everything is resolved. Your health check is passed. Then your load balancer is actually allowing traffic through to your backend, which is essentially Istio's ingress gateway. So let's take a moment and wait for this to catch up. Alright, so I just reloaded and my error is gone. So if I now go to my product page, now we see. I'm also going to go to my DNS here. So oops. So my DNS level 1 is working, and we can see that the domain name that I pointed to this is set up. Now I want to actually do SSL for this though. So what we'll do is go into our primary ingress. We're going to find our load balancer. We're going to go to edit. We're going to edit the front end. We're going to add a new front end. Call it HTTPS. That's our protocol. We want to select the static IP that we reserved earlier. And here is where you'll install your SSL. So you can upload your SSL that you've already bought or use a Google managed one. I'm going to use a Google managed one for now. And Istio. Alright, so at the moment that you save that certificate, it says successful. That's when it's going to start to ping your domain and make sure it's connected to this proper IP. So if that isn't the case, if it's not connected to this IP, then you're not going to get a certificate issued. So we'll click done here, click update, and it's going to take a few minutes for this screen to update to actually reflect that. So I'm going to go back here. Oops. We'll click this. It'll show our second front end here in just a bit. There we go. Alright, and then you should see our certificate. It's going to show as provisioning. So Google is essentially going to take about 10 minutes if your DNS record is already in place and resolving. Otherwise, it can take a couple hours. It depends on your DNS provider. I like to use Google domains. It seems fairly quick for DNS resolution. So I'm going to pause this for about 10 minutes, and we will see what happens when our certificate comes online. Alright, so my certificate has officially become active. But one of the things that you'll notice sometimes in working with this is that you go to the HTTPS version of the same domain that's obviously pointed into your lab, and it's not working. So there is a little bit of a lag time between when these things get deployed and when the SSLs actually become active, especially when you've got multiple SSLs. For if you've like 5 or 6 domains pointing into the same one and it's not a wildcard or a multi-domain SSL, then you will have some issues. Just wait it out, be patient, and it will start working. And sure enough, within a couple of moments, my SSL became active. You'll notice that it's verified by Google Trust Services. So there we have it. We have our SSL being applied at the load balancer level that then is being funneled down into Istio. And then from there, we can enjoy all the benefits of Istio while also enjoying the benefits of Google's load balancing and other services. So while I have you, we're actually going to go in here and run a couple of tests. So what I want to do is launch our Kiali dashboard. One of the things that I've noticed some people doing, they'll actually copy and paste this into the browser. That's not going to work. When you're using Google Cloud Console, if you click on this actual link, it's going to actually bring you into basically the web link to the local host inside of your Cloud Shell. Your Kiali should be admin and admin. There are ways to change this, but for right now, let's go and view our graph. I'm going to put on traffic animation, and I'm going to put our request percentage here. Now, we can see that there's no traffic coming in here. What we'll want to do then is actually generate some so we can see for demonstration purposes. So let's make our command. So watch, we'll send every second a curl command to our endpoint. And keep in mind, you'll want to run this in a new tab. Otherwise, if you close out, if you do Control-C and you close this out, your Kiali dashboard will stop working in this context anyway. So I'm going to send traffic every second. Boom. Alright, now in our console, here in just a moment, we can force this to refresh. Alright, so we see traffic. We can follow this all the way through our Istio ingress gateway, going to our product page, version 1, about half of the traffic going to reviews, half details, right? Version 1, you can see the different versions in reviews, 37%, 31%. So this is really helpful to see how your Istio service mesh is behaving, where your cluster is serving traffic, and overall how to show off your microservices, right? So I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment in the bottom of this video, and we will work our best to answer everyone's questions that we possibly can. Thank you very much.